You want the German love goddess and her sacred plant hemp? We can do that from Christian Rash's book, but be warned, it is very sexy. As in, sit down, strap in, if you're at work, put on headphones, because this has heavy eroticism, as well as hemp facts, love articles, and the old German recipe for a decoction of a hemp aphrodisiac. I'm Lex Pelger. I do can education for CV Sciences, the makers of these excellent CBD and THC products, which could help you in the physical act of love. So, the German love goddess is known as Freya, and there's a short description here from Geza von Meni, who is a historian. Freya is the queen of the Valkyries. She's kindly disposed to those who call upon her, and from her arose the name Frau, which we use today for females. She loves the Mini song, which is the old love song ballad of the 12th to 14th century in Germany, kind of like the troubadours of Provençal in France. It is good to invoke her in matters of love because Freya is the love goddess, the goddess of the night and the night sky, and therewith the moon goddess as well. Here is an old picture of Freya drawn inside a cathedral in North Germany, and the broom she's riding on may have been made out of hemp because that was the typical staff of the shamanic magicians. And so hemp was her sacred plant, so it might make sense that the broom she would be riding on would be made out of it. She was also the goddess who had the golden apples of immortality, similar to Idun in Norse mythology. And those are the apples she gave the gods to keep them young forever. And Rash guessed that those apples were actually the flower buds of hemp, though I think he's going a bit out on a limb when he's conjecturing that. Anyway, on to the sexiness. This is the legend of Tannhauser. This was made, immortalized by Wagner in the opera of the same name. But this is a famous old German story about Venus, the love goddess, who later became Freya. And it's that she lives in the interior of a mountain in a pleasant grotto in a comfortable cave in the womb of the earth. And there she is surrounded by frenzied bacchantes, lustful maenads, dancing nymphs, seductive sirens, lecherous satyrs, and potent fauns. In this Venusberg, every erotic dream comes true. Orgies, group sex, homosexual and heterosexual acts, even animals are allowed, such as Leda mating with the swan, and Europa with the bull. Eroticism is an inebriation of the sensual pleasure, a collective ecstasy, a sexual frenzy. But this young human Tannhauser was a talented singer who could sing the praises of love and desire like no one else before him. So Venus personally invited him to come to the realm of her senses. Like a shaman, he traveled to the mount of the goddess. Once there, he discovered the wild activities and fell enraptured onto the thighs of the charming Venus, celebrating with her the festival of love, the sacred nuptials. He archetypally fulfilled the collective male fantasy to unite with the goddess in the pinnacle of sexual ecstasy. All this occurred in a cave in Germany. They say many others since have looked for that cave and none have found it, but hemp might have been the way that he got there, because the oldest digs of Germany find hemp seeds dating back to the 5th century. And you have graves from around the same time filled with seeds, fibers, and the flower buds themselves. So we don't have definitive proof of like burned embers of such, but it seems like that they would have been using this ritualistically, especially because to get to use the fiber of the hemp plant during those times, they would have been burning it, and so they would have been around the smoke anyway. And so hemp for them was a source of fiber, a food, an aphrodisiac, and a medicine. Then Rash talks about the many love oracles across Europe. I have a ton of them in my Cannabis Evolution Ethnobotany, but there's a German one that is particularly good because on the evening before Midsummer Day, the girls of certain towns would go unexamined to a hemp field which belonged to someone. They would roll naked in the hemp, and 3 times they would tear off 3 handfuls of leaves. These they would bind into a wreath, which they would then toss on the nearest tree. As many times as the wreath fell back down, so many years would the girl remain unmarried. It was more doubtful whether the custom really served solely an oracular purpose. The boys of the village certainly knew the location of the hemp fields, and they also knew the time of the oracle. It seems likely that the nocturnal activities of the unmarried girls served to attract partners. It can be assumed that everyone who found themselves in the hemp field also had illicit intimacies. Have you ever gotten laid in a field full of hemp surrounded by your friends? I haven't, and I feel like I'm missing out. 2 quick interesting asides is that the Germans might have regarded hemp as a symbol of fate because the Norns, the goddess of fate, the rope they would cut for your life would be made out of hemp. Also, he has a box here about, was hemp the magical plant of the Druids? It's something that's been speculated about. I can share more on that in another video if you're interested. And finally, as promised, the old German aphrodisiac decoction. And you modern herbalists can let us know which ingredients you might change out for more modern ingredients. But they say, take 3 ounces of crushed hemp seeds. It's probably not seeds, that's probably the buds is what they usually mean in these old ones. Wild lettuce, green purslane, 1.5 handfuls of each of those, 2 ounces of flour for cooling the grains, allowing all to come to a boil in 6 pounds of water. Continue boiling until only 4 pounds remain. Strain off the decoction, sweeten this with fine sugar, and add 3 quintels of saltpeter. So basically, if you were doing this at home, it's 3 ounces of weed boiling down into a decoction, and that would absolutely work. There are a ton of aphrodisiacal products out there. They really work, and they're also incredibly easy to make on your own. You can use the recipes. Also, we have balms and we have oils that can be added to balms and things like that. This is a way to access the love goddess for sure, and the old Germans knew what they were talking about.